Hello, everyone. Once again, this is Philip and Freddy, our Chief Investment Officer, here today with a quick update for everyone. It's been a lot going on since we did this the last time. I think it's been about 2 weeks ago. So today we're going to cover a couple of topics that I will explain to you in a moment. But first and foremost, just write down here. Please comment if you have any questions throughout the talk, so we can get to them. Ideally, when we are speaking still. Otherwise, we'll get to them over the weekend. If you listen to this as a recording, keep writing comments. We'll get to them, and our support team will answer them as well. So, Freddy, today I think that most people are occupied by reading news about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is again on a global tour, which usually spells a lot of mayhem, right, for everyone, because he usually lashes out at people, agrees to something, withdraws from something. So what we'll talk today about is, or what I will ask Freddy about is, who is he assaulting right now, right? I know he started out by going after China. He's imposing more tariffs. We can talk about that. We'll cover NATO, the meeting he held the last couple of days. He just went to the UK, which has their own problems, so they've provided some kind of white paper right now for the Brexit, right?
Yes.
And upcoming next Monday is the much anticipated meeting between him and Vladimir Putin in Finland, nonetheless. And then maybe we'll wrap it up by giving a little view on the markets, right?
Okay.
And see kind of how we feel like. So maybe you start by explaining a little bit what happened in China. The first tariffs actually started now, because last time we spoke, it was just before they got implemented. And right after, everyone thought, oh, this is the beginning. What kind of happened this week then?
Well, Trump has been remarkably consistent, right?
Yeah.
He's mentioned 34 billion, he imposed it, then there's another 16. So the sum of $50 billion of Chinese imports will be imposed. And now he raised the ante again, up the pressure on China further. Regardless of what's happened, he's just going to go ahead. And his proposed list of goods is so wide-ranging that it sums up to about $200 billion of goods being slapped with tariffs. What's more important is a lot of people are not talking about is not the number that's important. It is actually how strategic the list is. But this list actually covers nearly 80% of the goods that's been imported by the US from China. The breadth is wider than before, although the sum is only $200 billion out of the 475 that the US is currently importing. So by value, it looks like slightly less than half, but its impact is much bigger. It's probably 80%.
Okay. And any response already from China? Are they going to retaliate just like the last one where they said, oh, we go tits for tat?
Retaliating lists of action points to do. So that's the good news in the market. It means that the Chinese is going to say they will do it, but they haven't really shown the market the resolve to actually do something. But as we have anticipated, it's going to be soybean is hit hard, corns and any livestock as well, right? So all these products would definitely be hit if the Chinese choose to act next. And that's because of the midterm November elections. Focus the pressure point on the voter base and try to get Trump to yield. So that may actually happen and raise further retaliation from Trump. Trump has already promised, you do that, I'm going to do more because I import way more than you. What are you going to do about it? So we'll see what happens. We've got to stay tuned to that, but the Chinese has not done anything for it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what you just mentioned with the soybeans, right? Prices already going down. The farmers already feeling it, right? You've been hearing that already, and Trump is just saying, "Hey, you need to be better patriots," right? That's kind of his words to the farmers, right? He's already warning them, "Hey, no, you guys have to play one for the team here." I think.
But what's worse is the Chinese has already reacted. China is starting to substitute what they import from US, like especially soybeans, sorghum, and all. They are now starting to increase their purchases from elsewhere, like Brazil and all. Although the rest of the world couldn't entirely replace what they are importing from US, but the Chinese are now afraid. They're thinking like, okay, this is not going to go away.
Yeah.
We got to start preparing for a long-term solution by buying, even if it's more expensive than before, we'll buy from other places in the world. Because once you have the tariff, it's kind of even more expensive, right? So the Chinese will react, and they have a medium-term plan. They just can't do it quick enough in the near term.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's good on China. I think that gives us a good overview of what happened here the last week or so. Then next topic was NATO. So because it was also, especially, this is really important, probably more for Europeans especially, right? Because, you know.
Well, as you know, the NATO was designed to protect Europe from Russia. Mm-hmm. And it involves a certain defense spending per year. And Trump is not wrong in the sense that the US is now contributing a very disproportionately large amount towards NATO, and that he's calling for European countries to increase their spending immediately, and with a target of doubling their expenditure from 2% of GDP to 4% of their own GDP by 2024. That request is not a bad one, because it's only fair that, you know, it's to protect Europe, and Europe should spend more. For years, politics have yielded no results, so the hardliners are pushing real hard on this. But again, classic to Trump is the way he does it. He goes in there and he assault people on a lot of destructive items. So going there, talking a lot very personally about the German history and very personally about Merkel. So that's not really attracting a lot of popular response in Germany right now.
But come to no surprise, right? The art of the deal. That's kind of how he said he's going to do it, right?
Yes.
So then, okay, so with NATO being spent, I know yesterday he made his way over to the UK, and he already said that Boris Johnson should be the Prime Minister, right? He would make a better one.
Yeah.
Kind of without going into Trump on this one, but what about the UK? Well, where they stand now? It's been now 2 years.
If we step back a little, Brexit is about leaving the euro, but what's the form and shape of how they leave? And so the whole situation in Britain right now is whether it's a hard Brexit, which is what the people wanted in the referendum, or a soft Brexit where you're still kind of on issues of border controls and immigration, you're still part of the EU, and you still contribute to the EU budget. That's kind of the big deal in UK right now. There's a lot of debate about a clean break. We want to have a real Brexit. Britain is going to negotiate its own future independently. We want to take control back over our borders, right, and immigration. But what it turns out is Theresa May has been sort of caving into certain boundaries set by the EU, and hence it is giving the optics that it's not a clean break. It's really a soft Brexit where we don't take back control entirely of immigration and labor policies and a lot of issues like that. Now, how Trump come in is quite interesting, because Trump has been picking fights in NATO with enemies and allies alike anyway. He prefers, as we know, unilateral actions or bilateral treaty between two countries, one step at a time. So to Trump, he really doesn't want to do with UK through the European Union, but prefer a direct, straightforward negotiations, where maybe it gives him more room to bully people into better trade deals for the US. So Trump has picked a fight here again and call out Theresa May's Brexit version as being soft and as being, what it says is, as being something that we may not get UK a deal with the US in the future. So again, it's the art of the deal here happening again.
Yes, same thing, right? And that's why it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens on Monday when we see Donald Trump and Putin finally meeting for their summit off in neutral territory in Finland, right?
Yes.
I think there will be a couple of things that they will want to be discussing, right? One is, Russia interference in the election. Putin will say no again, right? What are you going to do about it?
Trump is everywhere. Now it comes to oil markets. As you knew, this meeting is going to be held on July 16, and the topic is likely to be very focused on the oil market supply. However, the main issue is this. Trump, in the first place, by pulling out from the Iranian deal and renewing sanctions on Iran, has disrupted a huge supply in the oil market. And now nobody can buy from Iran. Adding to that situation was the disruptions in the oil fields in places like Libya, Venezuela, where production is virtually halted. So even if Saudi Arabia, big producers like Russia and all, would ramp up their spare capacity, they simply could not fill in the demand gap in the market right now. So the Russians have already complained and has already claimed that it's a US policy that's aggravating the oil market supply deficit, hence the prices went up. Trump's been tweeting a lot about, it's unacceptable that OPEC is manipulating the markets. Oil price has to come down now, right? So that's all secular referencing between the two sides. So this summit is going to be a very stressful one for the oil markets to manage.
Yeah, so watch out if you are an oil trader actually here.
So just a word of summary, Trump has no teeth in domestic policies in the US. But when he travels outside the US, and because the president has very strong unilateral power on going to war or picking trade fights, so when he landed at NATO, he picked on Germany, the market responded. When he attacked the Brexit plan, and the pound dropped last night. And then there's the Putin summit, which is going to be a big deal for emerging market economies and also the oil price. So volatility is in the pipeline, but I just want to say that all this shall pass.
Yes, and I think that's where we come up. So we're at this point, I think it's getting quite long anyways already. So before we wrap up, or while we're wrapping up, how about you give us a little bit of the views on the market from our side, but in general, too, and we're already getting there now, right, by wrapping up what kind of happened?
Entertaining as we may have sounded so far about the Trump round the world trip impact on markets, the truth is, by today, Friday this week, after all these events, the markets were fine. In particular, any stock markets, but in particular, the S&P 500 is making new highs, higher than when it was before last week. Again, what it means is you need to focus on long-term economic fundamentals. The decision does not change. These events and news and noises, they all shall pass. It's just a matter of a little bit of time. So I just want to make sure that the real issue here is where is the economy, and our view hasn't changed. To summarize, our long-term view is the US economy is in a really good shape. It's done way better than the global aggregate. The global aggregate is been weighed down by the slowdown in China. And because China has a huge role in terms of their demand for emerging market products, emerging economies are vulnerable to the Chinese slowdown. Emerging market has their own little issues at home with a lot of geopolitics, election risks and all. So all those opinion remains unchanged in the near term. The US will do well. The currency, the stock market, the bond markets will simply outperform maybe for the remaining of 2018 against the other countries in the world. But as long-term investors, we should always focus on diversification and a global portfolio, right? We will always have a certain portion of exposure in the US, Europe, Asia, Japan, emerging markets. When some of these pieces are down in the near term, they are golden opportunities to build up that diversified portfolio. While you're using the US portion to hedge, to offset risk, and to maintain the portfolio's integrity over economic cycles, right? All those principles remain unchanged, although we have been sounding very entertaining.
Yes, exactly right, and it's a great summary, and not much to add, but yes, so remaining that diligent about your portfolio diversification is very, very important. And also, these are just noises. You have them year in and year out in different ways, right? And they always play out, kind of not in that great recession that could happen at any point of time, right?
Exactly.
So I think, just stay in the course, keep investing, keep buying in regular intervals is the way to go. So again, thank you very, very much for listening today again. Please feel free to keep commenting over the weekend if you're listening to that on Saturday or Sunday, and we'll get to your questions, and we will both see you again hopefully in the next week or two. Thank you so much. Bye.